Welcome to Conversations with Mayi Lenz. That's me. I'm your host, a photographer obsessed with helping women lead unapologetically. On this show, you will hear not only from me, but from other amazing women who inspire me and are making a difference in the community. What does that mean, leading unapologetically? To me, it's leading from a place of authenticity without apologies. In other words, not seeking approval for being yourself, what you care for and value. My goal with this podcast is to inspire and help women develop powerful confidence in themselves and recognize the value we bring to the community and the world as a whole. Whether you are a stay-at-home mom, entrepreneur, pursuing a career, or growing your business, we are here to build each other up. Let's learn and grow together. Today, we embark on a journey that explores the depth of the human spirit, resilience, and the incredible capacity for transformation. Our guest today, Visser, the founder of Power Soul Healing, a light empowerment coach and a light language healer. She's also the author of the book Becoming Authentically Me. She has faced a series of life's most challenging trials, from childhood abuse to the loss of loved ones, bullying, the unforgiving pressure of the modeling industry, drugs, and more. But here is the deal. The remarkable part of her story, she not only endured these hardships, but emerged from them with newfound strength, purpose, and unwavering commitment to helping others find their authentic selves. And this show, it's all about leading unapologetically and authentically yourself. So today we're going to dive deep into her incredible journey, not just surviving, but thriving. Hello, B. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Mayi. Thank you so much for having me. And for those who want to know my real name, it's Birgitta, but many stumble over it. And it's like, what's your name? I always get that. What's your name? So that's why I always say, just call me B or Briggs. Suits me fine.
Can you start by sharing with our listeners the early experiences of abuse you went through as a child and how this shaped your outlook in life?
Yeah, so there were a series there were really a series of things. And what I will say before I start, I signed up for all these experiences. And you may go, yeah, but no, I didn't. Yeah, listen, I will explain it to you. So, yes, I was abused as a child by a friend of the family when I was about 10, 11 years old. Now, as I always say, growing up in the 1980s, life was very different, even the 1990s as well. But people were more closed off in that sense. I think nowadays people are more open in talking about issues and traumatic events that happened. But back then life was very different, and I didn't even tell my parents. And when we moved, because I grew up in Singapore, Malaysia for several years, and this happened in Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia. And when moved we moved back to Holland, and a couple of months later, this was in 1988, my dad passed away, coronary heart disease. Boom, he was on his bike. I mean, he was taken into hospital in April when he just returned. And then several months later, in July of 1988, he hopped on the bike and took a last breath, and that was it. But I will be very honest, he was tired of life. And would we call it suicide? I just feel like he stepped out of life. He didn't take his medication. He was just tired. Whether he felt he was a failure or not, I mean, he was looking for another job. So it was a rough couple of years for him. But he was trying to find himself. And I honestly believe when we do not heal from our traumas, that it keeps, we keep remaining in that same energetic frequency. It's all about shifting that mindset and healing yourself. It's so, so important. And it's such a beautiful thing to heal. but I don't think his soul was at that level of understanding. I mean, he was very spiritual, though. He did his meditation, but meditation only does so much. It's not like it heals you completely. It's really about just recentering yourself and refocusing yourself. So that was very hard because I was only 14 years old. My sister was 12. And it was just rough on all of us because my dad left us with nothing, absolutely nothing. He left my mom with a debt. So my mom had to start from scratch. And my mom, I have so much respect for her. I honestly do, because she picked herself up and she became a driver for children with disabilities until she started working for um, the Dutch railways organization. Um, and she took care of us. Did it bother me that I wore secondhand clothes? No, I didn't care. We had a roof over our heads, creaky floorboards, but I didn't really care. My sister and I shared a room, and my mother just made it work. And we did so much to help our mom out, though. I mean, we started working. I started working when I was 15. My sister when she was 16. So we worked the school holidays and the Saturdays and Thursday nights just to help our mom out. And the same with the chores. That was very normal back then. But what happened to me as well, especially at school, I mean, I got bullied in high school because I was very skinny. I mean, I was 5'11", so I was really, really tall. And I was just like this lanky, knobbly giraffe, knobbly knees. And I felt terrible. I was afraid of the kids in school, not just the men, also the boys, but also the women, because they just looked at me. And how kids can be at that age when you're teenagers.
Uncensored
They
mouth.
Yes, absolutely. And what kids don't understand, that when they get bullied, when the bully does the bullying, so to speak, the impact it has, the bully may not remember it years later, but the person that got bullied does remember. Does remember. And don't worry, I've forgiven them. I've forgiven them all. But I do remember going to Belgium for a school trip to the forest, the Ardennes, and I was just walking. I didn't want to go. I mean, I always used to slouch like the Hunchback of Notre Dame because I wanted to be invisible. I really did. Unfortunately, that was not possible. My confidence was below zero. I had no self-worth. I was totally insecure. And, I had I mean, I was like skin over bones, and my hair was all over the place because it was like, it wasn't that curly. It had that little, what do you call that?
The
Like,
way.
the waves in it, and it would just go all funny.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but the bullying started in high school or in
Yeah,
the.
in high school in Holland, because life in Singapore and Malaysia was completely different. And so, because of the death of my dad, and when I was in Belgium, this very popular kid like grabbed my arm right in front of all these other kids and showed, "Look how skinny she is." And that really stayed with me for a long time. And it just added, everything just accumulated because I wasn't healing. I mean, I was just, I just kept going and just kept going. And there were times I would just at school, boom, I would just throw my food out because I just didn't eat. I would eat at the dinner table, but that was it. And I kept that hidden very, very well. I think even when I was younger, I think it was about 10, I do remember, my mom caught me in the bathroom and I had my finger down my throat. She's like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "I don't know." And she watched me like a hawk, making sure I didn't do that again. So there was obviously something wrong at that stage in my life already. And when my mom put me on a course, I was 16, a modeling course, just to crick up my confidence, but I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I did it. I really, really did it. And at the end of it, a hairdresser picked me out of this modeling course. And he said he wanted me to be the main model of his hair show. I thought, great. I got paid like 75 guilders, and the guilders don't exist anymore. I don't even know how much it was, maybe just over $100. I have no idea. But he chopped my hair short, like in a pixie cut completely from here, from my shoulders, all the way into a pixie cut, all my hair gone. And I just looked at myself and I could cry. That's how ugly I felt. And that was the start. It was kind of the start of my modeling, but it was always a tough journey for me because I wasn't meant for it. I mean, the industry is very cutthroat. I did have an agency, but other agencies didn't really like my look. They're like, "Oh, you look too much like Brooke Shields. You look too much like Linda Evangelista," and or even Nikki Taylor. And I was thinking to myself, well, that's a good thing. But no, they didn't like it. I was also assaulted in the modeling industry by a hairdresser in New York, and that would have been his word against mine. When you get assaulted or anything traumatic happens to you, especially when it comes to sexuality, so to speak, you just freeze up. It's not like people will say, "Why didn't you give him a kick in the nuts?" And because at that point you just freeze. It took me a minute to get my thoughts together and just run out. And I never saw him again. But the thing with me was the way that I handled everything was I would work like a maniac. I didn't care where you put me, even in New York. I had like 3, 4 different jobs going, whether that was promotional work or bartending, hostessing. I would just, do it all. And Craigslist was great at the time, not anymore, but it was really great. But going to castings, now everything is done online, my going to castings, you take your portfolio with you. Yeah, the client would see you, they'd flick through my portfolio, be polite, just take my comp card and say next. And that really does dent your confidence when you have to go time and time and time again. So yeah, I didn't do my stint in drugs was something different though. It wasn't in the modeling era. It was really when my stepdad passed away in 2000, and my mom was very much leaning on me. And I always say, yes, I could say that I was hanging out with the wrong group of friends, but it was still my choice. And I took a lot. I mean, I did coke and I did a lot of MDMA, which is ecstasy. And one night I suffered memory loss.
And this is
And
after your stepdad passed away?
yeah, right after my stepdad passed away. And people always wanted to see me happy with a smile on my face because that's how they knew me. And if I had a problem, it was like, yeah, Brigitte, you can talk about it for like a minute. And then it was like they weren't interested anymore. But the thing that happened to me, and I'll be very open about this, I've written about it as well, because I don't carry these labels of shame, fear, all that. I don't. And I mean, somebody, yeah, I think it was my ex had sex with me on when I had these blackouts, and that is something so horrific. I do remember that. And it's not something that, when you're nearly knocked out cold like that, to have sex with someone, that is just not on. But looking back now, I mean, I take responsibility for what I did, and I have forgiven him anyway. I mean, he was off his face as well, as were the other people in the room, so to speak. And after that, from one day to the next, I didn't touch it anymore. I told my mom about it and what I'd done. And the first thing she asked me, she's like, Brigitte, are you still using? And I'm like, no, mom. And that was the God honest truth.
During some period, you struggle with body.
Yes.
Many people struggle with body image issues, but
Yes.
you mentioned as a coping mechanism,
Yeah,
you had some eating disorder right there.
I did. Yeah.
But you were already skinny. Some people will, you know, think, oh my God, she has my dream body because I want to become a model. You also mentioned about the modeling, becoming a model. Um, how was this coping mechanism because you had suppressed emotions, like, you know, putting yourself through throwing up? You were already skinny, so what was going through your mind? Because it's not like you saw yourself fat or heavier. You were already in that, skinny. So how did these behaviors affect your overall health, or mental health? Where
It's
was that point of view that you said, you know what, I need something needs to change?
yeah, very interesting question. For some people, they look at social media and it's all about body image, which is a lot of baloney, to be honest with you, because you need to be happy with yourself. For me, like I said, yes, it was a coping mechanism. It was really about suppressing my emotions, because working like crazy and controlling what I ate, that was the only thing that I could control. Everything in my life was like a bit messy, but these were the things that I could control. And even my relationships were messed up, totally messed up. And I think in 2009 is when I really hit rock bottom. And that was because my ex was a part-time crack addict. Oh, I didn't know it because he hid it from me. Isn't that brilliant? And so this was in Holland because he was from the US, and I paid for his ticket to come over, and I had a really good job, and I tried to find him work, and he just he had so much trauma held within. His only escapism to from that pain was that high of crack cocaine. And I mean, that just shook my world. It really did. I'd never seen someone with crack cocaine fingers, all the blisters. And he landed in bed with the Crips in Holland, and then he stole from them. And to cut a long story short, I helped the police and they found my ex, and then they deported him back to the US. In the meantime, my mom was so worried about me that she got me out of Holland in the space of like 2 or 3 days. And I went to the UK where I rented a place. And the leader of the Crips in Holland, he called me up and he said, if I ever find you, I will kill you. And about my ex, he said, if I ever find him, you will never find him again because he'll be dead in a ditch somewhere. That shook me to my core. That really was the final drop. And I took a whole box of ibuprofens. That's how shaken I was. And it was a very lame attempt on my life. And my mom just said to me, Brigitta, you really need to go and see a counselor. Because I even went to the police here in the UK, and they're like, or just looked at me and like, it's out of our jurisdiction. It's got nothing to do with us. Yep. And I went to see a counselor, and the counselor just said to me, she listened to my whole story. Elderly lady, she must have been in her 60s. I remember her glasses. And when I finished my story, she just said to me, she looked at me and she said, Brigitta, listening to your story, she's like, I believe that you're strong enough and you'll be fine. And I just walked out of there. My eyes like, what the hell? What am I going to do? What does that do for me? And so that is how I started my holistic journey. Now, what I didn't say was like for many years, I did read the tarot cards. So I was already spiritually inclined, because also my dad was very spiritual because he was a Rosicrucian. And the Rosicrucians, that's a whole different story. But it's got to do with sacred geometry. It's got to do with divine alchemy, talking about the transformation of your soul. Because alchemy is going from that state of lead, that heaviness that you carry, that dis-ease within, the trauma that you carry, transforming that to gold. So dissipating the heaviness and healing, and thus you become a far more authentic and enlightened version of who you once were, because you've understood the experience. That's all about the human transformation. And many years later, I understood that. At the time when I was 14, I didn't understand anything my dad was doing. Yeah, that really shook me to my core. But I didn't come here with a cheat sheet to earth. So I had to figure it out. And I found a Reiki teacher, a Reiki healer. And as I always say to people, that was actually my saving grace because she listened to me. And then she did the healing process. And I benefited so much from that that I studied the healing modalities. And no, I didn't do it in a weekend because I had to do the self healing on me for like 6 months. And then I went on to do level 2 and had to do all my case studies. And then many years later, I became I did my master's for Reiki masters, and I started teaching people. But I studied many different other healing modalities because I really wanted to understand the different techniques. So I did the emotional freedom technique, and it's very simple, but it's very powerful, where you tap the emotions of a traumatic event or experience out of your system by using the 0 to 10 rating. And just, it's really so powerful and so beneficial. And healing should not be difficult, but you need to be open to it. I mean, I became a meditation teacher. I studied aromatherapy, um, uh, holistic nutrition, a whole list. But that was really because I wanted to understand myself a lot better and I wanted to heal because I could not go on the way where I was headed. I needed to do something. And it's only when you hit rock bottom that you can either stay where you are, or you're like, you know what, I need to change my life. I need to shift my consciousness and understand what I've been through. Many people remain in that victimhood, like, why is this happening to me? Why this? Why that? How about, why is this happening for me? Why did I create these experiences? And every single one that we meet is a teacher, is a reflection of ours, of our, as I always call it, our wayward soul. Because some people trigger us, and it's like, well, why do they trigger you? What is it that you need to heal about yourself? And many people ask me, but how can you forgive those people from what they did in your childhood? And I said, how can I not? Why would I want to walk around with that? With that pain, that anger, that bitterness? It doesn't serve me. That's not why I'm here. I mean, my energy would still be distorted and I'd be like in a straitjacket, walking around like, oh my gosh, in this constant fight or flight mode, so to
They
speak.
don't even care because their mind is fixed on them. So
Yes.
you're giving them rent free, how people say. And when you said something,
Yes.
my what is this person teaching me? My mentor always says, mirror, mirror.
On the wall. Yes.
Right. What is this person? What am I seeing? If it's triggering you, it's because it's showing you something. What is there to learn? Doesn't mean that you're gonna accept of them being bullies or hating you or whatever. But it's what can I learn from this? And before I forget, you mentioned that when your dad was doing all these um, modalities or
Yes.
the Reiki, right? Is what you said he did?
I was a Rosicrucian.
Buster Kush. Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't understand what he was doing. Did he ever teach you what he was doing? Is that why you okay? Because I'm a
He,
Christian and I know that for us we go to church and we have, Sunday classes, or I talk to my kids when they were smaller. Now it's like, you know, it's a little different. But so I was just wondering if that's why you didn't understand, because like I remember Wayne Dyer used to say, when the teacher is when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
yes, very true. Very, very true. So for me, it was many, many years later that I understood that it was all about alchemy and the transformation of the human soul, the human character. And that was really amazing. I was actually floored when I did the research because it dates all the way back to the ancient mystery schools in Egypt. And I think we live in such a twisted society. Many people feel so lost. We are in this rat race of life. We're like these constant gerbils on the treadmill, trying to keep up with life. Oh my gosh, we got to pay the bills. Oh, we got to work harder. We got to take out another mortgage or up our credit limit, stuff like that. But that's not what life is about. It's just that we're so stuck in our ways. Mea culpa, I'm just I've been stuck as well, but yeah, for me, I mean, don't think that my life after that was a bed of roses because it wasn't. They were like, nah, Brigitta. The universe was like, hey, Brigitta, well, you kind of learned from this, but we're going to throw you another package, a different experience in St. Pete. Yeah, this guy was a trip. And he just was like a pug that wouldn't let go, stuck on my leg, wouldn't let go. And he just was very kind of like possessive, moved from like an hour away to two doors down from me, and was always asking me, where are you going? Who are you with? And it was just, I felt like I was a prisoner in my own home, even though he didn't live there, but he would always come there. And I told him many times, I don't love you anymore. I want my life. But he wasn't listening because he was going through so much. He'd lost his mom and he had a reckless, and he couldn't figure it out, couldn't pay the lawyers. And he had this fear of losing me. So he wasn't sorting out his own life, which he should have done, and he was just focusing on me, which wasn't helping me. So I was working like a maniac, of course, because I was playing Houdini with my emotions. Whoa, again, that old programming had slipped back in. But it was, in fact, that was what happened was actually a saving grace. Well, I sold my home because I wanted to get away from him. My mom was like, Birgitta, why did you do that? I said, Mom, I just don't want to be near him. And I bought another home because I felt like such a failure, even though I should have left the country. And it's one of the things where I overstayed. But then I'm one of these people, I don't give a toss where you're from. There is no difference between any of us. The only thing that's different is our physical appearance, but the light within each of us is the same. That's it. But borders and all these things are created to divide people. That is the thing. And so I found another home, and it was a bit of a money pit. And then I was like, there was so many times I would just lie on the floor, even in the other home, and I would just scream at the universe, like, why do I keep attracting this crap? And then they were like, well, you know what, Brigitta? Actually, you asked for it. How? We're going to get the popcorn. Let's see how you're going to get out of this situation because we're enjoying the show. And so I really had to figure it out. And I did. It's like if you ask the universe or your guides for help, you need to become aware of the signs. And I did. I did listen, and I started off with Kambo healing, which is shamanic medicine. It's the monkey tree frog in the Amazonian forest, and they scrape the poison of the monkey tree frog. It doesn't die; it just croaks happily ever after. But it's ancient old medicine, and what the shaman does is he burns either 3 or 4 points on your arm, so that the top layer of your skin comes off very, very light, or on the leg. So he did it on my leg. And when I go in for healing, I don't really like to read up a lot on it. I like to go in with no expectations because that way your mind is open to it. Well, sugary banana. As soon as he put that on me and I had a big yellow bucket next to me, he's like, you're going to need it because you're going to purge. And I had to drink 2 liters of water. as soon as he put it on, oh my God, I was purging. And he was helping me up to the toilet because it came out everywhere, which is very, very normal. It's a very physical cleanse. And it just, I mean, even after that, I was like, oh my gosh. Um, I felt so clear, but it took about 4 hours because he's like, your ego was battling so hard because I was programmed a certain way. And so it was this constant, like my soul and my ego were, boxing in the ring until it finally kind of broke through. And I did it 2 more times after that, but it was very, very powerful. And when I got home, I made a bucket list on my fridge. I cleared out my home, and I my stepdad, who passed away, as I said, in 2000, I promised him that I would run for cancer. Well, that stayed in my mind for like 16 years. Finally, I started running for cancer and many other charities in Florida, mostly the 5Ks and one time the 10K. And I really enjoyed doing that. It was very empowering for me. And I did a lot of other things like skydiving because I had a fear of heights. I mean, I live on the 11th floor right now. Thank God I'm going to a house. Thank God. But it was like, I'm like, I remember the instructor saying, "Are you scared?" I'm like, "Well, what am I supposed to do? I'm stuck to you, right? You're going to hop off that plane now." So I did. And oh my gosh. I mean, I was scared, but when the parachute opened, it was quite beautiful to see. And it gave me such like an epiphany. It's like when you are up there, thousands of meters in the sky, and you look down on Earth, everything is so, minute or minuscule. It's
That's
small,
small.
small. And when we are in the middle of our own trauma or whatever experience, whatever we're going through, we don't always see the bigger picture because we're right in the middle of it. And so that was a very powerful experience as well. And then not several months, I think like a week later or so, my guides were like, "Hey, Brigitta," they kind of like kicked me out of the house. And there was like this fair. And that's where I met my mentor, Alania Starhawk. And she was an amazing healer. She did Akashic record healing, where she goes into past lives. And people always ask me, does this really work? Yes, it does. Because what happened was, I mean, I know a lot of my past lives, and I've been here since the dawn of time, if you like, since the beginning of the earth. But it was because my ex wouldn't let me go, we went into a past life where he took all my money because I was a woman of status, so to speak, in the Middle Ages. And he was a charlatan, and he poisoned me with like an arsenic. And then he said he was trying to help me heal me. But instead, over several months, it just gradually got worse. And what happened after that is like my energy changed, but his energy also changed. And all of a sudden, he stepped back and he started fixing his life. I didn't speak to him for several months, and until before I left. And he's doing so well for himself. But kudos to the one that was on drugs as well. My ex, he's doing very well for himself as well. So that is it's beautiful to see how they've turned their lives around. I think what people don't understand is often that when they're in relationships, we try and we always try and make it work, but sometimes we don't sing from the same hymn sheet anymore. I was always trying to fix people. Whilst I needed to fix myself because I was such a broken bird. But that's exactly what I attracted. I needed to attract that to understand the brokenness in myself. And I just went the extra mile, extra 100 miles, so to speak, to try and help them out whilst I needed to help myself. And people don't always get that, you're stumping your own growth if you don't help yourself, but you're also stumping the other person's growth. And sometimes we need to walk our own journeys. There's absolutely no right or wrong if you want to stay with a person, but look, if the chemistry is done, if you just don't feel that love anymore, then just
Let it go.
thank them, thank them and let go. But people just are so conditioned when it comes to love. It's like this whole blimmin' legal contract with God knows how many clauses. You can't do this and then blah, blah, blah. And no, love is unconditional. You are love. That's what you are at your core.
And that doesn't apply just for love relationships. It also applies for, you
Every
know,
single,
siblings and,
yes,
my kids. I know when you said that we're always trying to fix somebody else, we don't trust that they have the power to figure things out. And
yes.
I went through all that with my sister also. I was always trying, like, no, you're supposed to do this way and that way. And there was a lot of things when before she passed away, that we talked about a lot of stuff. We laughed, and I was trying to help her. We were trying to find a cure for her cancer. She had leukemia. And it's that mindset that we have to fix. And especially I find that this, especially for women, that we
Mm,
want to fix everything. No,
yeah.
I don't know if it's the mother instinct in I'm a mom, and I would think that was my mom's case too. um I don't know. I just think that we, whether you have kids or not, is that need to fix things that I think it's just like that feeling of being needed, maybe. I don't know. But let me ask you, like, for somebody, and I'm gonna transition after to a few questions that I love asking my guests before I let them go. uh for somebody that might be facing similar struggles, what advice will you have for them?
So when you're in the middle of something, it's very hard. I'm not going to deny that, but you have to look at yourself and you have to take accountability for your life. That's the number one thing. Many people give away their power to others rather than reigning in their power and standing in their own I am power, feeling empowered once again. Because people live according to the to the to the whims, so to speak, of others. And it doesn't matter what other people say about you, what they think about you. It's really about how you feel and what you think about yourself. That is important. Nobody's going to save you but you. You can wait for your savior till the cherry pickings, but it's you that needs to make the changes. Take that responsibility. I don't care what you do. If you talk to someone, if you want to go to a healer, counselor, you do what aligns with your spirit. And that is the way forward. We can huff and puff like the big bad wolf. And trust me, I've been there and I've done that. And I've had to learn, like the third little piggy, to build a house out of cement so that that little big bad wolf could huff and puff at my little house. But I was like, man, my life is great. It's okay. I understand the experience now. And I'm aware of how I need to change. And that is how once you overcome these traumatic experiences, the beauty is, even though there will still be challenging challenges coming your way, you will understand how to handle them. And healing and getting help is actually a really beautiful thing, because that's where I said you take that responsibility because you want to live a different life. You want to get better because you are deserving. You are deserving of that love for yourself. It's so important that self love, that the relationship with yourself is the most important thing. And people will go, yeah, but that's selfish. No, it's not. It really isn't. When you're up in a plane, what happens when the plane woof nosedives? What comes out? It's these the masks. And what did I say? You first need to put the mask on your own face before you help anyone else.
Or else you both die.
Yes, otherwise you both die.
Oh my God, that's crazy. I love that. Thank you so much for that. Um, okay, so let me switch it up a little. What is your perception of beauty?
Beauty comes from the inside and it reflects on the outside. You can have a really beautiful person in front of you, but when their character sucks, you just walk away. So beauty is from the inside and I will say this, everyone is beautiful. Every single person on this planet is beautiful. We all have our own darkness to overcome. That's merely it.
I love it. What is one thing you stopped apologizing that helped you level up in your life? That moment of breakthrough for you.
Yeah, I it's funny because I always got treated like a doormat because it said, "Welcome, I'm here to help you. I'm here to serve you." And I was always apologizing if I felt like I hurt somebody. I was always afraid to speak my mind because, oh, I didn't want to hurt anybody, not just the people I was in a relationship with, but everyone, because that was just me. And now not anymore because I've overcome all that. And it's all about being unapologetically yourself. I'm not talking about the ego. I'm just talking about being yourself. Because again, many people are opinionated, but you just need to let it go because at the end of the day, it's not about you, but it's always about them and how they feel about themselves. So let it go. Everyone's at their own level of consciousness. That's okay because that's how we learn. That's that duality. That's the beauty about duality. If we were all the same, we wouldn't really be learning now, would we?
Right. I love it. So tell me a little bit about your book. What inspired you to write that book? Is it, you know, well, you tell me what inspired you to write the book. What's the book about?
The universe kicked my butt. You have to write the book now. You have to finish it. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I really sat down when the pandemic hit. I said, I mean, I was working, of course, but I sat down till late at night and I started. Finished writing it probably in the space of a year, and so it's really it's in two parts. The first part is really about the shift in consciousness and where we are in the world and why things happened the way they happened, even going back to the dawn of time. Talking about the fact that there actually is no death because we're energy and we go on. We merely transform. When our physical garment is old, it's worn, and I can't go on anymore, then our spirit lives on and our loved ones, they are basically, as I always say, they're in a different room. Some people can hear them and see them and some people can't. It's only because when we came here, it's kind of like our consciousness dimmed, and it's all about finding that light within us because we're human. And when you split the wording up, you have you, like HUE, like light, and men. So we are light men, but we've merely covered our light. And we're here to recover our light and return to that love for ourselves and for others. And that's just really important. That's really throughout my book, and also about everything that I've been through and all the trauma that I've overcome. I talk about drug abuse, I talk about mental health, depression, because even I suffered from depression, but I just soldiered on. And I work a lot with the ascended masters, the galactics, and the archangels. So I talk about a lot of things, and also about the fact that fear is merely that's a blocker in the mind. It's very different. I get a lot of compliments about the book. A lot of people say it's very much encoded with healing. Um, And so it's nice to see that people are finally it's taken a while to pick up becoming authentically me, but it's finally starting to pick up. And I think people are just soul searching and they really want to change their lives. And they're just looking, many people try different avenues, but it's nice to see that, yeah, people are picking it up and loving it.
That's awesome. Congratulations. And I wish you the best with your book. Where can people find you and connect with you? Where are you most active?
Where am I most active? I hate social media. I'm not a big social media fan, but I need to do it. But I really do it to inspire others. That's what it's about for me. So on Instagram, people can find me under Universal Light Warriors, and then I've got my YouTube channel, which is under Power Soul Healing, and then my website, powersoulhealing.com.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to list all of those links to the show notes of this episode. Thank you so much for spending this time and your wisdom with us today. You have an amazing day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mai. And as I always say to the listeners, don't ever think that you're alone. But if you're really struggling, just reach out to someone and know that if you think that you're not loved, well, we both love you.
Oh, that's amazing. Yes, you are not alone. There are people that love you. There are people that are ready to help you. And we are here in this planet to lift each other up and learn from each other. We all have different experiences. And by listening to your story, to my story, to somebody else's story, somebody will click somehow, mirror, mirror, remember, and you'll be ready to come out in victory.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you for tuning in today. If you found this episode helpful, kindly consider sharing it with your friends, family, and community. Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or share your thoughts with us on social media, on Instagram at Mayi Lenz or on the Conversations with Mayi Lenz Facebook page. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Talk to you soon.